Hello and welcome, everyone. Thank you for joining us today for this webinar. We're going to be talking about using ControlCenter, Fishbowl's ControlCenter that is, to better manage quality control quality and compliance documents, and meet ISO 9000 standards. Happy to be joined by my colleague here at Fishbowl, Sean Deal. Hi, Sean.
Hello.
Sean is one of our ControlCenter developers or software developers here at Fishbowl Solutions. He's worked extensively with the product. And Sean's going to be given the demo today, and as the resident technical expert for the solution, answering any of your questions. So with that, let's get started. So just a level set on the reason why we're having this webinar. You know, Fishbowl's been working with WebCenter for over 20 years, and in that time, we've worked with numerous customers, all shapes and sizes, various needs when it comes to content or document management. We've helped customers leverage the out-of-the-box capabilities of WebCenter, including workflows and even better use of profiles. We've created various value-add software solutions, including our ControlCenter solution, so really helping WebCenter customers do more by providing that additional functionality. When it comes to ControlCenter specifically, the topic for today's webinar, that additional functionality that we've built out and that you'll see today wasn't available in WebCenter without heavy customizations. So back in 2014, we set out to provide this purpose-built system that really provides a more granular control of individual documents throughout their lifecycle. We released ControlCenter in 2015. And since that time, numerous customers have been using it for controlled document management. So the big focus of today's webinar will really be profiling that use case of that customer on how they're using ControlCenter specifically for reasons around ISO 9001, because they needed tighter control over the life cycle of their documents. We've helped other customers outside of manufacturing leverage ControlCenter as well. Customers, for example, in the construction industry, we're looking to solve the issues and challenges they were having with project startup costs and sharing knowledge across their organizations. So we'll be sharing other successes we've had in other industries with ControlCenter as well. And as a software company, Fishbowl continues to invest in making its software solutions better. So we're also going to cover what we've developed for ControlCenter 2.0, which Sean will give you a demo a little later in the presentation. But again, the big focus of today's webinar is to highlight and provide an overview of this specific customer, who's a rocket manufacturer. I wish I could tell you more about the company, what they do, because what they do is really, really cool. Unfortunately, they were not able to participate in the webinar today, but they did say we could profile them without naming them. So just so you know that this rocket manufacturer delivers propulsion and power solutions, and they're a big partner with NASA. So you can imagine that their manufacturing processes and procedures rely on accurate documentation. In fact, they're under audit 24/7, and they actually have auditors on site at some of their manufacturing locations. This means that they have to tightly control the documents they leverage in the enterprise, who creates them, reviews and approves them, and ultimately who has access to them. So their controlled document management challenge really started years ago as there was a company merger, and the company needed to figure out how they were going to merge their content. Well, company one had Oracle WebCenter already in place and over 40,000 documents. Company two's content management system had less documents, but more and better processes to control what got added to the system. So really this customer had to figure out which system and which documents it wanted to keep. They ultimately decided on WebCenter, but they really wanted to institute more of those granular controls that the other software solution had. So that's what they set out to do. Really being driven by their compliance needs again. So mentioning that they're a manufacturing company, highly regulated, there's standards they have to meet. And so their biggest driver in figuring this out was complying with the standards that help govern their processes in their organization. And again, for this company, it's ISO 9001. ISO 9001, for those of you who don't know, defined as international standard that specifies requirements for a quality management system, or QMS. Organizations like this use this standard to demonstrate the ability to consistently provide their products and services to meet customer and regulatory requirements. So ultimately, again, for them, this manufacturer, what they produce has to be of the highest quality and be backed by content that can illustrate and therefore document the design, testing, all the materials, and third-party vendors they work with and why. But this company also must comply with the AS 9100 standard, which is a widely adopted quality management system for the aerospace industry. The big thing with this standard is that if this company fails to meet this standard, the company basically cannot sell its products to other vendors or customers. To meet these standards, let's take at some of the challenges they had to overcome. So again, they chose WebCenter, but really, as they looked at their needs, the first set of challenges with the current quality management system and processes was around usability. The whole document lifecycle process was inefficient. Lots of users checking stuff into WebCenter with little to no oversight. Additionally, workflows were cumbersome. Configuration really needed to be done by IT, and not enough time and thought was put into who should be involved in the workflow process and who are the content contributors and so forth. So additionally, the general use of the system suffered because of the interface. It just confused users that didn't align with their business processes they were managing or a part of. But the biggest thing for this company was really, again, those certifications for the standards. And those were the ISO 9001 and 9100, which the company has to recertify against every 3 years. None of the documents in the system are being managed in such a way to really drive towards those certifications and standardizations. So on the search side, the out-of-the-box search was a big complaint for the users. General feedback was documents were hard to find. This pointed to the type of search WebCenter really has out of the box and how those results are displayed to the users, as well as how users apply metadata during the document check-in time. And finally, the management of the system itself. So at one time, this company had over 40 administrators, but no real owner over the system controls. Again, not enough control over who checks in content and why, what happens after that content does get checked in, who is involved in the process, what's the role, what do alerts for revisions need to be sent to, and so forth. So no real ownership or oversight by the various departments. So in terms of what the company wanted to do with content management, here are their objectives. One objective was to improve the overall document control, really more system and administrative controls over who can check in content in the system, who should review that content, who can view that content, and how should content be tagged or what metadata is needed. They also wanted to improve upon and enhance the overall user experience, which would help improve document control. So really they envisioned a system that had more of a dashboard-like user interface where important messages could be displayed to users and organized with items that they needed to take action on. This also included giving the users the ability to easily browse for content and provide links to review, approve, or just view content based on their role. And they also wanted to better utilize the out-of-the-box workflow that WebCenter offers, really making it easy to get content, once content is checked in the system or based on criteria such as review date, trigger that workflow step so the right people in the organization could perform the steps necessary to, again, review, approve, publish content, and notify the appropriate users when this happens. And lastly, better search. So ineffective search at this company caused a lot of confusion for the users, with the general consensus being that if they couldn't find something in the system, it didn't exist, which caused a lot of content to be recreated or duplicated. So better search for this company and were really around the relevancy of the results that are returned to almost really personalize the content to the users so that it could be filtered was really something the company was looking to do. So they thought about these objectives, but they really wanted to align their content management procedures and controls to their business processes. So any content fitting into, as we're showing here, kind of an overview of their processes. If content fits into an enterprise process or was defined as part of their value stream or used for infrastructure support, could be classified or tagged at check-in time. So again, the tables represent some of this content as an example that could be checked into each of those categories, and then through the use of WebCenter profiles, and as Sean will show you, provided through ControlCenter's interface, as well as governance and rules for how content is titled, in addition, and the metadata to be used for that content. The customer wanted to ensure that haphazard or content not matching any of the above categories does not enter the system. So the question for the customer really became how to leverage WebCenter and the overall content being created and managed in their organization more effectively, get more value out of that information while ensuring the utmost control so that they could pass certifications for the standardizations that they have. So the customer really considered 4 options for their go-forward approach. And option 1 was to use the system as is. So obviously with this option, there would be no additional investment or cost to improve the system. However, the trade-off would have been They wouldn't be able to address and achieve their overall content management objectives, which again will improve that document control, enhance the user experience, ensure effective workflows, and return and provide more relevant search to the user. So doing nothing meant the customer was left to deal with the poor use of workflows, complaints around the user interface, which was leading to system avoidance. And then the complexity around this, really that end-to-end flow of what happens when content enters the system, as well as ability for users to just navigate to the specific content that was being categorized, which we discussed on the previous slide. Again, those were the enterprise processes that they have. Option 2 was around really considering use the system as is, but provide more training. That always sounds great. I think we've all probably dealt with that. The users just need more training. So really the cost here would have been the training cost. But even with additional training, the customer would still be looking to address the challenges outlined in option 1. Again, the complex workflow views, who's involved, the visibility, the poor interface, not mobile friendly, everything that option 1 lists there. Option 3 was really take a look at WebCenter. WebCenter obviously very powerful from a customization standpoint. So develop custom components either in-house or by working with Fishbowl. Essentially customization inside of WebCenter, where there have been a customization cost with that. And the number of customizations necessary really meant that such customizations would have to be supported as the customer upgraded. And then the customizations could be problematic when it comes to receiving WebCenter support. So those are some of the downsides that they looked at when it came to the customizations. And then option 4 was really to invest in this more dedicated solution that would provide an interface, including the features and functionality the customer needed to really realize their content management objectives. So this included a dedicated user interface or dashboard where the user can perform all their content management related tasks, get content checked in, browse, navigate, and find that content, review content items and workflow, really take action. And additionally, that solution that could include system generated capabilities, so taking advantage of the WebCenter capabilities to notify users proactively for scheduled reviews of content, sync content, and again, Sean will show you a lot of this stuff, sync content between electronic and native versions for any documents that were printed and more. And the biggest challenge with this option was the additional cost. So the customer must include the software and services purchase and factoring that in, and really focus on how to improve the out-of-the-box search, as well as focusing on improving the out-of-the-box search with WebCenter. So we've been privileged to partner with this company. Thankfully for us and them in their use case, they selected WebCenter. So that was option 4. Which again, dedicated interface for vastly improved user experience. The decision was really enabled Fishbowl Solutions to implement ControlCenter for Oracle WebCenter and really help them improve that. In making this decision, it was ControlCenter's impact and ability to address the customer's content management objectives. So again, by improving document control, the customer really liked ControlCenter's ability to sync content between the content metadata in WebCenter and the document properties, including inserting that metadata in the document itself and the footer, as well as watermarks that could be included as well. Additionally, for this feature and what ControlCenter provided for improving document control, they're using templates to streamline document creation and provide even more control of the document format for that content that gets entered into the system. For enhancing the user experience, ControlCenter was developed from the ground up based on input from other customers. So it's really that purpose-built control document management solution, and that's a fit-for-purpose use for what it should be. At a high level, ControlCenter provides this modern mobile user experience with that responsive interface and the dashboard. So really, regardless of where a user is, they can kind of take that content with them and view the content that they needed to take action on. This means that it can be configured to suit the needs of the end user with specific user controls over what appears on the dashboard. And as we discussed at the beginning, the customer is heavily regulated. So there's standards they have to meet. Their operations are driven by the standards governing their processes. This means there must be a clear audit trail of what happens to the content when it enters the system. Workflows are critical to this, and ControlCenter really enhances the out-of-the-box workflow capabilities by adding capabilities and allowing you to configure what users involved in the workflow step C when they need to act, as well as the ability to search and find content in a workflow and escalate workflows to other users or aliases based on business rules. Lastly, really providing that better search experience by increasing the relevancy of results. So with this one, the customer decided to utilize WebCenter's native search capabilities with ControlCenter and then just have them exposed through ControlCenter. So there wasn't much that could be done to increase the relevancy kind of out of the box, but really from the standpoint of how ControlCenter allows the user and the customer to find content through more intuitive browsing and navigation capabilities. So in choosing ControlCenter, the software and solution approach for the customers was to leverage the existing investment in WebCenter, enhance it with ControlCenter. Ultimately, the customer's investment in WebCenter and their use of it for retention management, document management, workflow, content governance would be enhanced with the purpose-built capabilities of ControlCenter. Fishbowl's consulting team also worked to implement the solution and get it configured so that could be utilized for the customer. But the most critical part of this approach was really the committed customer project team. So as we understood their needs, worked very close with them to understand how they want their quality management and control document management solution to work. And so really to make a large project successful like this one, there has to be that commitment on both sides. The commitment to evangelize and architect the process changes on the customer side to make the implementation successful was needed, and the customer did just that. With Fishbowl's assistance, they were able to champion this use of the new solution across the locations by focusing how it would improve the end-to-end and that day in the life work stream for the users. So we're going to be moving to a demo here in just a couple minutes. I wanted to preview that demo by showing you just some of the highlights of the capabilities the customer is using. Specifically, capabilities around providing that better user experience with the goal of providing an easier means to check in content, manage that content, which should lead to better quality assurance, accomplishing this through a dashboard. So the first one here is the customizable browse navigation. This allows users to browse content by department or type. Second piece is really that dashboard and the various sections which can be configured to provide an easy view into the content that the user needs to take action on. So in this screenshot, the documents and workflow section lists the workflow items that the user needs to take action on, and without having to search for them or having to perform multiple clicks to get to them. The document status summary section summarizes the most important tasks for the user. The user knows what they need to do specifically, as well as providing insight to administrators or process owners of the content that are coming up for a scheduled review. Again, this can be monthly, quarterly, or yearly. And then the favorites or quick links section, which the customers really like. So it really helps users get to the content more quickly with that one-click access. ControlCenter is also highly configurable. So as far as what users can do within it, what they can see or have access to, that can all be configured. Again, we touched on the browse capability, but also how that browsing displays information about the content and what the users can do with that content. This also includes a results list that maps to the navigation section the user is on, thumbnail images for specific content items, and what the user can take action on regarding the content itself. And I mentioned the importance of workflow to the customer. With this overall solution, again, ControlCenter extends upon WebCenter's inherent workflow capabilities by providing additional workflow features. One of those capabilities is to display the comments from the users on the previous steps of the workflow. Such comments can provide additional context to the user as they reach their step in the workflow, such as what has changed or what section of the content they need to focus on to move it along in the process. And retaining those comments can be done at the reject or approve step, or they are done with ControlCenter keeping a record of all those comments. Additionally, the instruction message could be customized by step, workflow, or file type. And another thing to reiterate here is a feature of ControlCenter is the ability to sync and update document header or footer data with WebCenter metadata. Again, this can really help users by providing additional context to that content, but also provide another safeguard. Do not use printed documents as final versions. So wrapping up this customer story, again, just wanted to share from a quality assurance perspective, it's so critical to their organization. They're using ControlCenter for Oracle WebCenter for really their quality assurance processes. Big part of that is ensuring ISO certification. We mentioned this earlier, but to remind them, they're certified against ISO 9001 and AS9100. They can't do business with their customers if they don't meet these certifications. Currently, there are about 2,100 documents in ControlCenter and WebCenter that need to be managed for these certifications. And access needs to be easy. So around 5,000 employees currently access very ISO-related documents. So again, providing the simple yet robust interface for these users to access content is critical. Users can't spend too much time searching for information. And instead, they just want to find the information they need to take action on and move on. And it was also critical for the company to be able to deploy ControlCenter across its various locations. Right now, they're using it in 14 different locations across 4 time zones. So summarizing their benefits, this really include removing the level of administration necessary to keep the system working and accessible, Prior to Control Center, they had about 40 content administrators who found themselves tripping over each other, trying to enact certain processes with how content should be managed. With Control Center, they've been able to reduce this down to 14. As the system does most of the administrative work through proactive content reviews, notifications, security, and so on. So really that level of human oversight's not needed as much. And users really like the system. Comments around it's fit for their use case and work streams. They can just get their stuff done. It's helped them streamline their workflow processes, reduce the amount of time that items are in workflow, really by providing clear and actionable steps for users to take action. And users were able to start using the system pretty quickly without much training required. Another benefit was the system has ensured no audit findings for the customer for over 4 years. So the customer has not had to take corrective actions for their processes because those processes are very transparent. Content types, users, roles, security, who has access, so forth. And initially the customer was able to save over $150,000, which would have been those customizations that would have been necessary to provide similar functionality in WebCenter. All right, let's get to a demo. I'm going to turn it over to Sean. He's going to show you a little bit more about Control Center, the dashboard, how to navigate to content, how content gets into the system, and that notification. So Sean, take it over.
All right, thanks, Jason. Here we are in Control Center. This is the dashboard, and this is the first thing you see when you go into Control Center. So the dashboard has a lot of widgets that contain useful information for users. We'll be coming back to the dashboard several times through the demo, but for now I want to highlight this document status summary. This is really one of the most important widgets here. This gives you really simple information straight up front telling you how many documents require your attention. So when you first log into Control Center, you can really quickly see if there's things that you need to take care of. So now let's head over to the left side here, and here we have the Browse Nav. From here, this is completely customizable with any metadata within the system. So I'm going to browse by document type and select procedure, and I can drill down into further metadata. So from here, I can choose a department. I'll drill into manufacturing, and then you can further drill here by region. So I'll choose North America, and that pulls up basically, instead of having to go in and do a metadata search of selecting each of these metadata individually, it basically just does that search really quickly and shows you the results right here. So one of the features of this search results in Control Center is on the right side here. By clicking on a row, you can bring up what we call the metadata panel. And this shows useful information for this document. So you can see the thumbnail for the document. You can see some quick actions that you can take on this document, as well as the document's metadata. If I want to be able to come back to this document later, there's a few ways that I can do that. I can subscribe to the document, which this uses WebCenter's out-of-the-box subscription functionality, and it allows me to either subscribe to this document individually or use any group subscriptions that are configured within WebCenter. As you can see, I've already got a couple of those subscribed, but I want to subscribe to this document individually. So I'll click there, click Save, and it will save those settings. I can also favorite the document, which you can do through either the Add to Favorites action, or you can click the star to the left of an item in any search results, and that will add it to your favorites. So now if I go back to the dashboard, you can see in both the document subscriptions and favorites widgets, that item now appears. So now I'll have quick access to come back to those documents whenever I need to. Now let's go through the process of adding content to Control Center. Through the aptly named Add menu, you can choose any profile that you have configured within Control Center. I will go with a procedure. And from here, it pulls up a pretty standard check-in page, like I'm sure you're used to seeing in WebCenter using the profiles metadata. Before I upload the file, I want to pull up this file in Word. So this is the file that I'll be checking in, and I want to point out a couple things first. First of all, you can notice that these document metadata in the header are just listed as automatically populated, so there's no actual data there. But after I do the check-in, this header will automatically be updated with the relevant metadata. You can also see this procedure summary. This will, when I do the check-in, this procedure summary will automatically be parsed out of the document and put into the WebCenter metadata. So let's go ahead and do that check-in, and you'll be able to see those in action. This profile is also configured with our workflows to let you basically choose the users for each of the steps in this simple workflow. And these are type ahead fields. So if I start typing a name, you can see that my name shows up here. So I can quickly select it, which is also useful if you don't exactly remember the username for who you need to select. For sake of simplicity, I'll select myself for both of these steps. And now I will do the check-in. So first thing right away is that you can see that under the summary field, I didn't enter this when I was doing the check-in, but like I said, this has been pulled in from the document itself. And as it goes through Inbound Refinery, Control Center will automatically update the header with that metadata. If I go back to the dashboard, you can see that this item has now entered workflow and shows up in my Documents in Workflow widget. So I can, with one click, go right to the workflow review. And you can see here that the header has in fact been populated with the metadata that I selected. And in addition, there's a watermark on this document that will only appear while in workflow to, if this gets shared with anyone, to let them know that this is just a draft. So from here, I'm going to enter some comments for this workflow review and click approve. And now, since I set myself for both users, it has still gone back to me. So if I go back into the workflow on the next step, you can see that my comments that I made on the previous step are available for the next person in the workflow. There's also another type of review within Control Center called scheduled reviews. These don't happen when you check a document in. You can schedule these to happen anytime after the document is checked in. So if you have a document that needs to be reviewed every year, you can set it up so that the document will be queued for you to review every year. And from here, you can choose either if there are no changes necessary to the document, you can do that, or if you want the document to be expired, or if you want to check out and create a new revision, you can make your choice on that. And the scheduled reviews really help keep documents up to date within Control Center and helps prevent things from getting obsolete. So that will do it for this first demo. I'll be back in a little bit, but for now, I'm going to pass it back over to Jason.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. All right. So hopefully you were able to learn a little bit more about how a customer is using Control Center, as well as kind of their backstory on the reasons why they decided to purchase Control Center and use it with Web Center. And those are the types of solutions that Fishbowl developed. So for those of you on the webinar today that don't know a lot about Fishbowl, we really developed solutions like this to solve costly and frustrating knowledge sharing problems. And we typically see those at multiple customers. So being a customer first organization, we see opportunities all the time to develop software that we can provide to customers that have these challenges. So really they can improve their overall content management processes. And we've been doing this since 1999, developing solutions like this for content management, enterprise portals. We also do digital assistants and mobile apps and provide enterprise search solutions. So today we're really focused on Control Center's use case that fits into that quality control and quality assurance process. Where organizations have content that's critical to a quality assurance process, and that content needs to be shared or rolled out to other users. But Control Center also fits other use cases as well. And so from a safety perspective, what we've seen here is where when changes need to be made to safety policies or procedures, the process to update these and distribute them is typically not standard. Some companies keep a safety manual or binder on the shop floor, for example, and when changes to a safety policy are made, someone needs to really actually print out that new update and go to the shop floor and insert it into the binder. Unfortunately, that delay can cause accidents. It could lead to fines during audits and so forth. And then another use case is on the field operations side within construction companies. They struggle with high project startup costs because a lot of the content created for one project is not being used for other projects. This also decreases the amount of knowledge sharing that takes place. So really, how can Control Center help in these areas? So we already highlighted the customer's use case for quality control processes that can be enhanced through better document controls, including synchronizing document data with metadata in WebCenter, ensuring printed documents are not used for process reference by including watermarks, and really ensuring the workflow process keeps moving by enabling users to search for content items in workflow, see where there might be stuck, as well as ensuring a full audit trail for items that are within the storing, that have been stored, and then approve and reject those as part of that workflow. On the safety side, you can ensure that safety policies are proactively reviewed weekly or monthly or yearly through a scheduled review and notification process. Also on the auditability side, you can go back in the history of content items to view any past versions and who was involved in the creation and review process. For field operations, the example for construction companies who are always on the go, managing various tasks on the construction site, you can access project and construction-related content on the go using Control Center's mobile interface. Additionally, you can drive down those project startup costs for the use of document templates, which again are all stored and made available to users in Control Center. But really highlighting around Control Center where it helps with compliance. So I'm sure a lot of you on the call, your companies are regulated by standards and you need to comply and the regulations that govern your business. We covered the ISO standards today for the customer we profiled. Really adding more granular controls over the content that drives quality assurance, testing, safety, and basically anything within manufacturing could be streamlined with Control Center. This content could be policies and procedures, work processes, or specific content relating to OSHA, SQF, or safe quality food manufacturing, or TQM, or total quality management, and more. So before we move to the next demo, I just wanted to highlight a few other successes we've had with Control Center. This customer is a global aluminum manufacturer. They wanted to implement really a quality control policies and procedures management solution before their new manufacturing plant opened up in China. Before that plant opened, they really wanted to make sure their policies and procedures were followed at that location and then provide more visibility and control to those processes from their European and US headquarters. They had a legacy system, but they really wanted to have a purpose-built solution like Control Center on top of WebCenter to, again, provide that dashboard for both reviewing and accessing documents, that workflow audit, reports, integration between documents created in Microsoft Office and backend data, and so on and so forth. So this solution, Control Center with WebCenter, really helped them facilitate their quality procedure management solution in China, as well as their go-forward support for their other processes worldwide. And because it's software and we were able to configure it, understand their use case, we were able to implement that solution for them in around 90 days. Another success is a food manufacturer operates 30 plants across the United States. Big driver for them was accurate and up-to-date safe quality foods documents available across all manufacturing locations. Each plant really had to make sure they had individual procedures documented. They really needed that single source of information to all the policies and procedures. Other issues included this non-flexible security model, really limited workflow automation and limited audit track, and really the inability to quickly and easily generate reports or view who has access to content, who approved. So a lot of that content was being printed and actually shared around. So they wanted to reduce those costs. when an audit for this company, when audit for them, it audits a plan, it's essential that he or she may be presented with the current documents at the location, but also see that those match the versions of those documents stored and maintained at the home office. So they were able to achieve this with Control Center. Users can go to computer kiosks at the plants, pull up the relevant policies and procedures that get referenced during manufacturing. And then our construction company. So this company is an enterprise builder, developer, and designer of real estate and real estate management company. Before implementing Control Center, their best practices were kind of all over the place. And really their problem was their project startup costs. So not really having a system that was intuitive for the users to go in, find information that they could use as a template that could be repurposed so they could get their next project up and running. So they wanted more and better comprehensive search and browsing and navigation that was easy to get that content to the user so that they could start their next project. And then really being able to understand that where that content is, manage, maintain it, and share this corporate knowledge, these manuals, and the real estate archives more across the organization. And with Control Center, they've been able to drive down their project startup costs by about $400,000, really getting back to the no more duplication of work. And then really decrease the onboarding costs, because again, as they started to use the system and they found how easy it was to use for their project management needs, their training was dramatically reduced. So let's learn a little bit more about Control Center. And as I talked about, we're continuing to invest in making the solution better and better. So in Control Center 2.0, we've added more on the dashboard personalization, really around widget configuration. We've enhanced the search. We now have threaded discussions, and that's really an interface through a chat window on pieces of content, as well as being able to identify popular and recent documents. So again, I'm going to turn it back over to Sean, and he's going to show us a little bit of this.
Thanks again, Jason. The first thing that I want to show for our Control Center 2.0 enhancements are actually a couple of the widgets we have on the dashboard here. This popular documents and my recent documents, these widgets leverage Content Tracker, which is a core built-in component provided with WebCenter to show documents that are popular within Control Center and documents that you have recently checked in or viewed. The next feature is the ability to personalize your dashboard. If I click this edit dashboard icon, you can see that I've entered edit mode for my dashboard. From here, I can rearrange widgets. So if I want things to be laid out in a specific way, I can do that. You can change some properties of individual widgets. For instance, if I want to only show 3 popular items, I can change that. Or if I want a certain widget to be hidden all the time or only hide it if there are no documents in it, I can do that. So if I do that, you can see that the checked out documents widget isn't shown because there are no documents in it. You can also add new widgets to your dashboard. There are a few different types you can make. You can make a widget that shows documents from a certain group subscription. You can pin an individual item to your dashboard. You can save any search that you perform within Control Center and then create a widget out of those search results. Or you can make a widget that uses any text or HTML that you wish to enter in there. So I'm going to create a new group subscription widget. It lets me choose from the group subscriptions that I have. I'll choose this one and I can rename it. Create, and you can see that it creates that new widget. I can move it back over here. And you can do that if you have certain things that you want to see, you can create widgets to better personalize what you want to see when you go to Control Center. Admin users can also edit these widgets on a system-wide level. So this Welcome to Control Center widget was created by an admin. So you can see that for my personal dashboard, I'm not able to delete it. And the visibility of it has also been locked by the admin, so I can't hide it either. So if you have certain things that you want to be shown company-wide, you can configure them that way. The next thing that I want to show off are search filters. So if I do a quick search, you can see on the left that there are search filters. And these are pulled in from WebCenter. So just the same search filters that are configured within WebCenter. And they work as you would expect search filters to work. I can filter down the department to only show manufacturing. If I go back and show marketing, only the marketing items are shown. That helps with when you're doing your search to further narrow down to find what you're looking for. And the last thing that I want to show are discussions. So if I head to the content info page for an item, you can see there's this discussion window here. This leverages the built-in threaded discussions component and lets you create discussions for any content item in ControlCenter. You can see that it saves the time that you posted it, as well as what revision you are looking at when you posted this. And these discussions are also visible in the workflow review pane. So from over here, you can see the same discussion is available in workflow. There are more things that we added in 2.0, but that's all that I'll be showing today. So to wrap things up, I'll pass things back over to Jason.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. Yeah, so we are at 45 minutes. So, and just kind of close and summarize here. So again, getting back to why we wanted to have this webinar, just again, sharing with WebCenter customers of this purpose-built solution around quality control, quality document management. So hopefully you're able to see and get some ideas about how ControlCenter could help you with some of those processes. So ControlCenter is really built as this all-in-one solution for ensuring compliance with these regulatory standards and automating document control. Hopefully you saw, it's more of a modern user experience compared to what you get out of WebCenter out of the box, really making it easy to manage those policies, procedures, any of your critical documents throughout their life cycle. And again, getting back to kind of the title of the webinar, if you're looking to comply with standards like ISO 9000, or you just need a better place to maintain important documents and help you do that and get them into WebCenter, ControlCenter can help. So now we'll be taking questions.
So one question that I'm seeing in here is, does ControlCenter track who accesses a document in WebCenter? So the tracking capabilities aren't done by ControlCenter itself. It's done, there's a component provided with WebCenter called Content Tracker. And that component tracks whenever someone accesses a document, both within ControlCenter and within the core of WebCenter. And with those popular and recent document widgets, those leverage Content Tracker to pull that information.
Sean, it looks like this question was answered online, but just so everyone can hear it. So obviously, as a software development company, Fishbowl has other solutions that we have that could be for more singular use, like our subscription notifier, workflow solution set. Can you tell our webinar attendees today kind of how ControlCenter provides these some of those solutions that other companies or some of our customers have, and really kind of just packages them up to give them the various features and functionality they're looking for from a controlled document management solution. So for example, Sean, document automation that you showed, being able to sync content metadata with document data. So what else are we including in there, Sean, that other customers might know through some of the products that we offer?
So yeah, ControlCenter does leverage a few of our other products. In particular, the metadata synchronization that I showed off is using document automation. And there are two particular functions in those called native file updater and metadata parser. So those are used for that metadata synchronization. Many of the workflow things are also using components like, for instance, the approve with comments component is used to track the comments. And there are other pieces of the workflow solution set that are used. And the scheduled review functionality uses subscription notifier to handle those periodic reviews. And all of those components, document automation, workflow solution set, and subscription notifier, are all included with ControlCenter.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. There's another question about what you were showing on the left-hand side in the navigation of the window. Are those linked to infield or rules within restricted lists? I'll give you a minute or a couple seconds to read that one, Sean.
Yeah, so that browse navigation on the left side can be set up with any option list metadata fields that you have. And if you have restricted lists or dependent choice lists, if you set them up to go down the hierarchy that way, it will work with those as well.
Awesome. Thanks, Sean. I want to thank my colleague for his work in the demos. Thank you so much, Sean.
Yeah, no problem.
We wish everyone a great day. Thanks, everyone.